For the Taijiquan Commencement, we want to remember the points of basic posture. So my weight should be evenly distributed on all parts of my foot. Knees and hips should be soft. I should feel like I'm folding the hips in slightly so as to tilt the torso slightly forward. Tailbone tucked, and if possible, think of the tip of the tailbone as lifted up into the body, into the pelvic floor. Lift up through the crown of the head to lift and round the upper back. Soften the chest without collapsing it, and let the shoulders sink. The chin will also come in slightly as the head lifts, and the head will float back gently into a more stable position over the torso. And open up the fingers. They should be slightly extended and still keep some roundness. The palms turn back as part of the commencement, and as that happens, I feel a very subtle rotation up in the shoulder. Again, I don't want to pull the shoulder forward. The shoulder should rotate in place, and that should give me a little bit more roundness in the back. It should add a feeling of roundness that's along the horizontal plane. And as the hands come up, we want to reach out gently through the fingertips, keeping the elbows soft, keeping the shoulders dropped. If I do it from the side, reaching gently forward through the fingers, let the elbows sink down towards the floor a little bit. The shoulder should feel like it's sinking down into the back, the shoulder blades sinking into that rounded shape of the back. And I want to feel a coordination between that sense of sinking in the shoulder and the sinking and softening in the hip. This is called one of the external coordinations, hip joins to the shoulder. So I have the same sort of sensation in the hip and shoulder. Feeling of sinking in the shoulder, feels like the shoulder blades sinking down into the muscles of the back. And in the hip, it feels like that slight folding in and softening at the front of the hip joint, as well as the tailbone dropping under the body and the lower back opening, loosening, relaxing that natural curve there so it's a little straighter. The weight should stay even on the feet. Then I'm going to let the elbows and knees bend slightly, and that's the second of the external coordinations. The elbows start to drop, the knees bend slightly, and I'm sitting not just down, but a little bit back into the hips. So the body's going to sit back half an inch or so. Elbows and knees bend. If the knees are bending, it means the hip is also flexing. And the tailbone will feel like it's tucking under even just a little bit more. So the sense of sinking and softening in the hip is increased, and in the shoulder as well. And then the hands start to sink. When they come down to the height of the thighs. And at this point, I want them to feel a little bit heavy, as if they're resting on the floor, as if the weight of the upper body descends through the arms, like the weight of the whole body descends through the legs and the feet. And the sense of joining the hands and feet, meaning the same kind of action, feeling the same action in hands and feet. That's the third external coordination. And it can only happen if I join the elbows and knees and initially the shoulders and hips, because I can only join the hands and feet through the long chain of muscles and joints in between. So feel a little hip crease. We'll even feel the head still floating back a little bit, and the opening and roundness of the back very subtly exaggerated. And then elbows and knees start to bend. I'm sitting back slightly. Weight stays very even on the feet, even as I sit back a little bit. The tuck of the tailbone is crucial to that. And the palms gently press down towards the floor. The initial step starts with the heels together and the toes out at 45 degrees. I've already established the basic posture in a very moderate way. Knees are just a little softened, a little bit of that hip crease, tailbone gently tucked. Feel the head lifting and floating back slightly, that lift and roundness of the back. And I need to be able to shift the weight to one foot without leaning or tilting to the side. Basic posture is what makes that possible, to get my weight into one leg with very little movement of the torso. And then I'm going to step out with the heels in one line, the toes still turned out about 45 degrees from one another. So from the weight even on the 2 feet, shift the weight with as little adjustment, outer movement as possible. I can feel some compensation internally, but I want to stay relaxed, feel the weight sinking, and step out. And as I start to shift the weight, I'm going to toe in. And then as the weight comes fully even, 50-50, the other foot's going to toe in so the feet are approximately parallel. Don't force them. And at that point, the arms are also making their rotation, so the palms face back. And now the arms are going to come up, reaching out, but sink the shoulder and sink the hip. You should feel the weight sinking through the whole body. And then elbows and knees start to bend, sitting back a little deeper into the hip crease. Hands sinking down, becoming a little bit heavy, and feeling the weight descend through the whole body, right through the feet and the floor. If I want to repeat that movement, I can rise up gently, drop the fingertips, reaching out, a little space between the fingers, both some sense of extension and roundness. And the lifting movement we initiate with is really a version of ping, push up and out. And as we start to bend the knees and elbows and the palms pressing down is on. 2 of the 4 primary movements and techniques in Taiji. So ping, push up and out, is not just an expression of the hand or the arm, but it's felt in the whole body, like the whole body is gently lifting and extending, but the weight sinks simultaneously. And on, likewise, is felt in the whole body. The emphasis now changes to that feeling of the weight sinking, while I don't lose the support and lift that I discovered in the first part. And then the foot that stepped out by convention is the foot that comes back. And even here, I think, I don't want extra movement, right? I don't want to stick my hip out or lean. Right? So as I rise up, keep the tailbone a little tucked, keep the head lifted, keep the weight sinking so that we can step in